Hi, I'm Kate Walla from University at Albany's Theater Program. I'd like to welcome everyone to our pre-show conversation for our Authors Theater online reading of Interstate by Amina Henry. Authors Theater is co-sponsored by the Theater Program and the New York State Writers Institute, with funding from the Yarka and Grace Burien Endowment. The reading of Interstate takes place live tonight at 7:30. You can register for that at the link below on the YouTube page and also in the chat. Here with us this morning to talk about the play is playwright Amina Henry, actor and UAlbany alumna Danielle Skraastad, and Maggie Mancinelli-Cahill, producing artistic director of Capitol Repertory Theater. Thank you for being with us, and I'll let you three take it away.
Thank you so much, Kate. It's really an honor for me to be here with all of you for this Authors Theater presentation and the wonderful work that SUNY Albany has been doing under Kate's collaboration. So thank you. Now, we need to get right to it. And so I'm just going to say that I really enjoyed this play. I think the dialogue is very spicy and wonderful. And you have a real ear for creating a character. So I want to get that out of the way. So I make sure that I, let you know how much I enjoyed it. So Amina, I'm going to turn to you and tell us, where is this play in the progression of how you're writing it? Is this a first reading or is it going into production? Tell us.
No, unfortunately, it's not going into production, but it's a second reading. So I wrote the play when I was in the Ars Nova play group. I think it was, the years are kind of mushing together now, but I think it was 2019 or 2020. Maybe it was the beginning of 2020 when I wrote a first draft of the play and heard it just with a bunch of other playwrights in my writer's workshop. And then after that first reading, I made a bunch of changes and expansions because it wasn't quite done. So this will be the next time I'm hearing it now. So it's a pretty new play in the sense that I haven't really had the opportunity to work on it since that initial redrafting.
All right. Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing it tonight. Now, let me ask you something. I told Kate, I've actually gone on a nationwide road trip with my son, who at the time was 21 years old. Now, I'm happy to say that it was less eventful than the events in your play. But I think that a lot of young people, this is a play about a mother who decides she wants to get to know her children better. So she decides to have a cross-country trip with both of her teenage kids, and off they go. And in addition to that, she thinks it will be really fun to visit all her old boyfriends along the way. Now, if that doesn't sound like hell to a young person, I don't know what would. And so I immediately was captivated by the plot of this play. But I would like to know, what was your inspiration for writing the play?
I wanted to write a road trip play. I just sort of had it in my mind as, oh, this would be so interesting as an experiment to write a road trip play. And at the same time, I was really, because I'm slightly older than I look, I think. And so I was really wondering about motherhood and that journey, I suppose. And I was also thinking a lot about my own relationship with my mother, and just kind of how, in a way, hard it is to be a good mother and to even know what that means. And so I was just really interested in writing a play about motherhood and about family and forgiveness and change, and this is what came out when I was thinking about those questions.
All right, well, listen, I'm going to jump to Danielle for just a minute. Danielle was in Capitol Rep's production of The Grapes of Wrath too many years ago when she was literally a kid. And I'm not kidding about that. And she was absolutely wonderful, Rose of Sharon, in that play. But you've gone on to have quite a wonderful career, Danielle, and you're teaching, I believe, NYU still, yeah? And acting. And so but you got your start really here in Albany and in SUNY Albany. And as an alum, we'd like to hear about how that shaped who you are now. You're going to be reading the part of the mother tonight, Red. great part for you. So, yeah, but tell us, how did it begin and what did SUNY Albany do for you?
SUNY Albany, strangely enough, still plays in my life even today. All of those connections I made with fellow students are still strong. I ended up going to people that went to SUNY Albany, at least in my little section of journeying through school. Glenn Fleshler, Darren Goldstein, Dion Flynn was actually in my class, and Darren Goldstein was a couple years behind me at NYU. So it felt like I brought SUNY Albany with me. And then after I graduated from NYU, I moved into the theater world in general in Manhattan. And I run into SUNY Albany alums all the time. I'm still friends with many of my professors from SUNY Albany, and I run into Maggie
Yeah.
a lot, even though, I don't think I think with the exception of some readings, I haven't been at Cap Rep, but the theater community in upstate New York is so vibrant that you end up crossing paths at other theaters. And so the relationships I made at SUNY Albany ended up being, they still exist. So
I'm so glad to hear that. Well, welcome back. I can't wait to get you on the Capitol Rep stage. We're opening our new theater, hopefully this summer.
Interstate.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to see it. Now, I want to go back to Amina before we run out of time here, because I want to talk to you as a playwright in terms of the tone of your play. It's one thing for me to read your play. We don't know each other, and so I don't really know your sense of humor. I found this play very funny. And I felt like you picked up the pace in the play as it went on, in terms of one moment we're in Indiana, then we're in Illinois, then we go to Arizona, now we're at the Grand Canyon, now we're, and I thought you did that in a very witty way. But I'd like to ask you, is this play a comedy?
I think it's a satire, because I think I write satires. I don't ever set out to write a comedy. And I was really shocked the first time I had a reading of one of my plays and people were laughing, because for me, it was so serious. But now, like about deep issues. So I think I've kind of leaned into the fact that I do write comedies, but I write them as a way of dealing with darker matters and harder stuff. And I think also when I try to write comedies, they just get darker and darker and darker anyway. So I think my tone is just sort of my tone, which is very, very dark comedy.
There you go. All right. So now what I want to ask you is, for me, this is really a play about transformation. And because this is the pre-show talk, we're not giving anything away. But it's a play about, you go in the car one way and you come out after going through some events and some revelations and some putting together things in your life. But do you want to describe, thematically, what you're working on here? A road trip across the country with your mother, and who wants to know who you are. So can you just elaborate on the theme and what you think that's all about?
I think you're right that the play is mostly about transformation and the ways in which you're not allowed or allowed to change within a family unit, which is very interesting to me, because I feel like when I go home, I kind of immediately slip into this very old version of me, and just I even eat in a different way when I go home than I normally do. So that's just always been very interesting to me. Also, I was going through a little bit of a transitional phase as a writer when I had started working on this play, and was experimenting with different ways of making plays. And so I was a little bit out of my comfort zone, and I feel like the play sort of started to shift as I went along in terms of how I was making it and what it was about. So at a certain point, there was a moment where I was like, what is this play? Like, I feel like I'm losing track of what I'm doing. but that said, I decided to just go with it anyway. So sort of, yeah, that is.
Well, very good.
Anyway.
Now I want to ask Danielle, do you have anything you'd like to tell us about when you read the character of Red? Red is the mother. Just be clear about that without giving any secrets away, please.
I loved reading this character because I relate very deeply, not just as the mother, but also as the daughter. I mean, it's interesting to hear you say that you were thinking about being a mother and then also being a daughter in your own relationship, because I felt myself really clearly identifying with many of the characters and many of the roles I take on. And I loved listening to you say, that when you go home, you eat differently, because it has that feel. It has that feel of the pull of like, the pull, from even the mother's point of view. She's stuck in that, how she wanted to be perceived by them at one point, and then wanting almost to feel like, can I go back, without really knowing that she wants to go back and start over, and not even understanding that what she's asking them to do is not only maybe inappropriate, but impossible. And it's very exciting to identify with that, because I do kind of go back sometimes with old relationships and start to, like, you just find yourself playing something out that's old, like an old relationship with a sibling or an old relationship with a parent. And I just think that it's a really smart and exciting conversation to be having. And I'm so excited to work on it with you today.
All right, so listen, we have to let you go because we know that you have a rehearsal very quickly after we get off. But Amina, I'd like everybody to tune in just at 7:30 and follow the link that you will see in this presentation to get you there. And Amina, do you want to have any last words you'd like to leave us with?
Last words.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, before you go off to rehearsal. And,
oh yeah.
you know.
No, I mean, I hope that people enjoy it, and even if they don't, I hope that the play gives people things to have a conversation about, even within themselves.
I think that's wonderful. And with that, Kate, we'll be signing off. Thanks, everybody.